Thanks for joining us for the Monday headlines here on RT International. Hundreds of protesters are blockading a nuclear submarine base in Scotland. Activists from the Scrap Trident Coalition have gathered outside all of the base's entrances, chaining themselves together and waving banners. The blockade is one of several events organised by the movement, which wants the UK to get rid of its nuclear weapons. And protests against Trident have been flaring up for years now, both in Scotland and the rest of the UK. We will have more on the latest protests against the Trident programme live next hour on RT International. The British government has imposed new rules that prevent civil servants from speaking to the press unless they get permission from their superiors. Critics have labelled the new rules draconian. The head of the Public and Commercial Services Union, for example, called the order a clear attempt to stop public servants from telling the truth about government policies. However, a spokesperson for the Cabinet says the new rules merely clarify a requirement already in place. RT's Anastasia Cherkina has this story.
Panicky and born out of paranoia, that's how critics are branding a new rule for UK civil servants. As many as 400,000 employees working in healthcare, the Home Office and the prison system, among others, can no longer have any contact with the media unless they get approval on a ministerial level. Read essentially a gag order for public service workers.
Ensure you have ministerial authorization for any contact with the media.
The Cabinet Office says that the change only clarifies existing rules that require civil servants to clear material aimed for publication in advance. But this small upgrade has been torn to shreds by a UK union that represents civil servants. Journalists are also fuming.
It is nuts, but it's part and parcel of a package of measures that the government's brought in over the last 5 years, which all serve to really clamp down on the ability of journalists to get to news. So now the attack on civil servants, who after all know much more about what is actually going on than politicians do. It's sort of that last nail in the coffin, the last attempt to try and prevent journalists from really holding politicians to account.
Whistleblowers say that leaks are made to address flaws in a system if change is impossible from within. But bans like this one only get in the way of democracy.
If they're asking for this to be, you can't go to the media, for an example, well then that's just, you're getting into a system of censorship. I suppose you're going into a system where you're not allowed to speak out. Democracy is actually getting impacted on in regards to talking about concerns.
Although doubts do exist that the media communication ban would actually stop a whistleblower, the restriction does show a certain level of nervousness about those working in the government speaking up. Anastasia Cherkina, RT, London.
As always, many more stories for you online this hour, including NASA paying human test subjects to stay in bed. You can get $18,000 if you're willing to lie down for 3 months. The US Space Agency wants to simulate how a lack of exercise affects astronauts. You can read more on what could be a dream job for some. That's at RT.com this hour. And while you're there, this story, grassland fires in eastern Siberia killing 15 people, raging across at least 20 villages, being driven by fast winds. That story at RT.com. We also have one story on RT.com that you can actually take part in. It's about a man who never skips his workout. Vladimir is a farmer in the Russian Far East. He has cerebral palsy. And the one thing he needs more than anything else, believe it or not, is gym equipment. Our website is joining the crowdfunding effort for Vladimir, who is working hard to provide for his wife and 2 daughters. He wasn't always a farmer. Vladimir moved to the countryside after he had to sell his town flat. But that setback didn't faze him.
Это наш огород.
Буду ставить бордюр. Перегородку. Сейчас покажу вам, как я подтягиваюсь.
He put all of his energy to tending his farm, but was forced to ask for help online after his disability allowance was cut. He couldn't afford a greenhouse, costing about $1,000. Obviously a great asset for growing vegetables in what's clearly a harsh climate. Vladimir says he was truly surprised when money started trickling in.
I never expected anyone to respond to my story. Thanks to all of you who have helped and are still helping me. My dream is to live and be like everyone else. I don't want to merely exist, I want to live and be useful to others. What keeps me going is the love of others and their attitude towards me, how I'm being treated, not like a disabled person, but as a healthy person. That's very important to me.
Now, Vladimir's story triggered quite a response among RT.com readers. You can check out a lot of the feedback in the comments section and find out also how to help Vladimir's cause by logging onto our website. For now on the program, a bit of a global snapshot in brief. A car bomb explosion at the entrance of a large police station in Egypt's North Sinai region, killing at least 8 people and injuring dozens. The blast in El Arish, the region's capital, left a large crater and damaged nearby homes. Rescue crews are still searching through the rubble for any survivors. Scenes of riot police in Istanbul using rubber bullets to break up a crowd of people who had gathered to hear an unauthorized concert. The folk rock group Yorum, known for their left-wing political songs, had been banned from playing at that site there. Hundreds of people fled the scene as armed police units closed in, and several people were detained, some of them claiming they had nothing to do with the concert. Hillary Clinton has officially kicked off her bid to become the Democrat candidate for the U.S. presidential election of 2016. It's the second time the 67-year-old is running for her party's nomination. In 2008, she lost the primary race to Barack Obama. This time, though, analysts say she is the clear favorite to become the Democrat nominee. All right, up next here on RT International, find out how legalization could win the war on drugs. Sophie and Co. coming your way.